So what was Labour going to do? As Labour always does, it sits down and thinks tactically. We'll have a commission to look into decentralisation. That's what we'll do. We'll take the steam out of all this and we'll create one or two other things. It was not far off that time the Welsh Development Agency was created. They started talking about a Welsh Language Act, and they started talking about not too much of a commitment, but more possibly a Welsh language channel one day. All those things now came on to the board, right? In the hope that it would all go away, of course, eventually. And for a while it did, okay? Then I was now working in the Wales Gas Board, and I became candidate in Carmarthen.
And how did that happen?
Well, by accident. I had a day off from work, and I was walking along Penarth Pier with Arowell, the person I mentioned earlier, who was still at university, but I was now in my, he was a year behind, but I was now in my first job, although I'd been for a year in Llanelli, in Needle Bearings in Davin, as a market research officer, 1966-67. Laura, my wife then, was in art college in Newport, and thus men, as we are, you got dragged to where your woman was, and maybe it was a big mistake, not that part of it, because I was in a job where I could have developed internationally, because it was a Swiss-German firm, and the senior people were Swiss-Germans, and I went out to Switzerland and Germany on 2 occasions, but no, that wasn't good enough for me. I got dragged into the Wales Gas Board as an assistant economist. Enjoyed my time there. I learned a lot about the gas industry and met Mervyn Jones, the Wales Tourist Board chairman, who really stood up against the Gas Council, the British Gas Council, because Wales Gas at that time was not independent. It was only a little branch of British Gas. But old Mervyn, George the Gas, he was nicknamed, Mervyn stood up to them and insisted on the Welsh view being heard. And he was very, very good. Anyway, he called, back to the selection, Colin. So we were walking around the pier, and a guy stopped in a car and wound the window down. He said, Gwynoro, what are you doing here, buddy? What are you doing here? Come here. He said, you know we are looking for a candidate in Kilbrandon in the next 2 or 3 months. Yes, I'm on the management committee, I said. Have a go for it, he said. You're young enough. Have a go for it. Well speaking, constituency person, from the mining area, university graduate. You've got all the credentials, he said. You won't win, of course. You know, Gwynoro is going to be there now for many, many years. He won't win. But think of the opportunity you're going to have to make an impression within the Labour Party for future times. And even if you don't win, if you perform a good campaign, you know, your name will be noticed, right? Well, I thought a minute, you know, I'll think about it. So, we were also in the throes then of getting married, because we were living in Cardiff. We were only a few months away from getting married in August 67. And this was now about June, July 67. And we just bought this house. And there was I, planning to live in Cardiff and knowing full well what it would mean every weekend, going back to Carmarthen, campaigning again. Anyway, decision was made to have a go. And as per usual, you have to write to every branch, write to every union, delegation, blah, 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 with your credentials. And I got it. It was no contest, really. There was a local miner and a local doctor, not Roger Thomas, a local doctor from Lampeter, Ambrose Lloyd. The miner's agent was Will Evans. And there was one other guy that I don't remember. But, you know, I won by an overwhelming majority. So there we go. And from there on, then a couple of months afterwards, we were married. But after the wedding, it was full-blown campaigning. You know, hardly a weekend was missed. Hardly a weekend. We would travel back and we'd either stay with my parents or with Laura's parents for the weekend, and then I'd be away Friday night setting up the branches, because all the branches were dead. They had run for cover after losing the by-election. There was nobody, so we had to organise a completely new setup for the whole constituency, which we did. Many good guys. Ivor Morris, who was a communist. Ivor was a communist and became my greatest friend, and he became my agent in the 3 general elections. And because Ivor's view was, he's a communist, but he wants his view as closely as possible represented. And it was Labour that closely represented his view of things, even though that's not where his heart was. He never missed one Saturday. He never missed one event. And he was well into his 70s by then. And he came with me everywhere for 3 years. And I'm talking everywhere, all the time. Agricultural shows, carnivals. Laura was sent to carnivals to do the baby shows. And some, you know, in those days carnivals were big, massive events. Village carnivals were massive. You know, you people have no idea today what the carnivals were. You know, and there would be baby shows, and there would be fairy queens, and there would be carnival queen, and those would be selected, you see, in the winter time, a few months before the elections, before the carnival. So if you got involved with that, you were in the whole scene of. So that's how it was. Campaigning was very hard.
And at the same time, were you the research officer for Labour?
Yes, from '69. Jim Callaghan ran Merv the gas. I don't know, I'm not quite sure why they did it. Whether they had realised what I had achieved in Kilbrandon in changing the party and the membership. We had 1,000 members within a year, right? By canvassing, getting the old people back, writing to members over the last 10, 15 years before. Now come on, let's change things here. Getting involved with them, coffee evenings, on and on and on, you know. Russell Lowen, you know, Max Morris came to Cymdeithin and Bryn Aman when he was a young kid. We were the first really to start using Max Morris and many others, right? Whether that impressed them, I don't know. But I was asked to, would I be interested in being the Research and Labour Party officer for Wales? And I agreed to that. Well, it was a godsend, wasn't it? A year and a half before the general election, I was a full-time party officer. I could do my work for the party in Wales and for my own constituency together. Brilliant.